Hey guys, Raging Rashaka here. Thought I'd take a little bit of time to talk about how to improve your loot quality within Path of Exile 2. I'm going to talk about a couple of things with how you should try to be running your maps and how you should be trying to gear yourself and when you should try to make this change. And then towards the end of the video, we're also going to go through and I'm going to teach you how to make custom loot filters so that you can look for the loot that is important to you. Not everybody always wants the same kind of loot, and also not everybody understands what every single little piece of loot for every single possible build out there is, so sometimes it's better to just kind of focus on the loot that is good for you. So we're going to go ahead and flop over to the game here, and so one of the big things about trying to get loot for yourself is making sure that you're using these towers to the best of your capabilities. So you want to be popping things in like getting more breaches or whatever event that you really enjoy. If you prefer rituals, if you prefer breaches, you know, the mirrors, you can do those as well. Delirium. Each one of these are going to have their own types of loot that are going to come from them that will be unique to them. So keep that in mind. You may want to spend some time looking on the internet to see, you know, what's out there, what you can get access to, and what events they come from. Me personally, I really like doing breaches. I just like the concept of there being a whole lot of enemies on the screen and you're just kind of mowing through them and taking out what you can take out. And the loot kind of drops pretty freely because it's just a whole bunch of enemies to kill. And then the actual breach stones that you get for combining 300 of the splinters has some really decent loot that comes out of it as well. Another thing that you'll want to make sure that you're doing is heading towards these kind of pillars of energy. There's 3 different colored ones. So you've got the orange ones like this. I think I have another one up here in the north somewhere, way up here. Yeah, here's the red one. And then there's also one that's kind of a bluish look. Oh, here's one right here. So those are the three different citadels. That's what you're looking for to find the citadels for completing the quest line in order to fight the pinnacle boss, which is the guy that you can fight back at the start of the game. Well, he's generally the zone in to get to it is generally very close to the start of the game, I should say. So let's see. Actually, it's right here. So this place here. So when you go inside, you have to have 3 keys to open the door. You get them from those 3 different colored citadels. And now that we've had the update where you can see the citadels through the fog, that makes things a lot easier. A couple of other things you can do to improve the loot that you're getting is making sure you're doing higher level maps. So I'm not aware of any way to apply this corruption save 1, and I'll show you that in a moment. But these are really important to find when you find them near the spires, because then you want to use irradiated tablets to try to get irradiated to pop on here as well, because this will raise the level of the creatures in whatever map you use here by 1, which essentially makes the map 1 tier higher. And then if you can get irradiated on there with it, then that is going to raise it another level. And the way that you get tier 16 maps is you take tier 15 maps and you corrupt them, and they can either drop a level to a 14, stay the same, they can alter the stats that are on the 15 map, or they can upgrade it to a tier 16 map. And then if you use that in a spot that has both corruption and irradiated, you are now doing a tier 18 map. So that is the highest level map that you can really do in the game, and you will have the best chances of getting gear at that point. As far as decent drops go, you'll start seeing the level 20 skill gems drop, which are worth a fortune right now if you can get those to drop. You will also see a lot more of the jeweler's orbs, both the greater and the perfect jeweler's orbs. You're also going to see slight increases in the amount of exalts or divines that you get. Keep in mind though that these percentages are fairly small compared to other ways that you can improve the amount of stuff that you're getting from the game, but that does give you the ability to roll the highest level items is by having the highest level maps that you can have. Now, the other thing to look into when you're in here is your gear. Depending on what class you're playing, if you're playing a Archmage sort, you have one benefit because you're probably doing Chaos Inoculation, which means that you do not have a need for Chaos resistance because you are immune to it. That means that every piece of gear that you have that you would put Chaos Resist on, if you can just put increased rarity of items found on them. So you can see like these gloves here have 30%. I've got 30% on the boots that I'm wearing. Helmets are really good. You can get into the 50s for helmets. And then you also can get it on rings. They're very expensive to get, but I've seen top-end rings that have around 50 item rarity on those as well, and you technically could get 2 of them. Though if you're playing this build, one of them you're probably going to want to have dream fragments in order to make the build really work well. So one of your rings you'll probably have some item rarity on it because you don't need any chaos resist at all. So those are some ways to improve the loot that you're going to be getting. Right now in this phase of early access, item rarity is really, really powerful. I have 136 item rarity on me currently, and I have gotten as many as 5 div to drop in a single map. That has only ever happened one time, so don't get delusions of grandeur of like, oh, I just got to get some item rarity and I'll just be swimming in in divs. But you do see divs a lot more often when you have high item rarity, especially when you have your this tree, your Atlas passive tree. There is a node on here. Trying to remember where it was at. Yeah, this one here. So depending on which path you decided to take, if you take this node here, this one increases the drop chance of things based on the type of biome that you're in. So, for example, basic currencies are swamp and water biomes. You have a 40% increased chance to drop basic currencies. So, if you have a whole lot of item rarity and then you have rolled a really good map, you want to try to roll maps that have increased item rarity on them, and then you also want increased quantity on them. And then you can try to use some precursor tablets that will increase rarity and or quantity as well in the general vicinity. You know, use a tier 16 map, use it in a node that has both corruption and irradiated in it so that it's now a tier 18 map. All of that stuff is going to factor in. And then if it's in a swamp or a water biome, your chances of getting currencies are going to be significantly higher. So since they're dropping more frequently and you have really high item rarity, the much more likely that you're going to get good currencies. This is one tactic that you can use to farm for specific things as far as currencies and stuff like that go. One thing we've kind of noticed, myself and a group of friends, is the second line here for mountain biomes is 40% increased chance to drop gold. I don't have any way to confirm this right now, but there is a small group of people that have a belief that if you have a lot of gold find on a map, that it's causing the gold to drop in place of other items. Like I said, I can't confirm or deny this, but after having done a bunch of maps, I'm starting to notice that pattern as well. It doesn't always work that way, but it seems to work out that way more often than not. So keep that in mind. Another really, really good Atlas passive to have is this comes from doing level 79 bosses and higher. So the way that you get all 10 of these points, it says right here, slay the boss in areas level 79 plus to earn points. Every time you earn a book, it gives you 2 points. One of them is going to be from killing the Pinnacle boss, doing the quest line, and then killing the Pinnacle boss the first time will give you 1 of these 5 books. The other 4 are going to come from a map that has a boss in it where the level of the map is 79, which should be a base level, tier 5. Is that right? Yeah. So a base level tier 5 map, a base level tier 15 map is going to be level 79. And then if you do one that has irradiated on it, that's an 80 map. And then if it has irradiated and corruption, that's going to be a level 81 map. And then if your map is a 16 instead of a 15, that's your level 82 map. That's how you get the 4 different levels. And when you kill the bosses at the end of each one of those, you will get another book. You can't just do a level 79 map with a boss in it 4 times and get 4 books. You want to go up 1 map level each time you want to get a new book. So that will give you all 10 of these. The 2 really important, in my opinion, things that you need to take here is this top center one, which says anytime there is a map boss, then it is also it's an irradiated node. So you'll start noticing that every single place that there is a boss node, it will also have the irradiated on it, which also means if you use the Precursor tablet that adds bosses, it will also add irradiated in all of those locations. The other really important one, I haven't actually gone to kill the Pinnacle boss yet, which is why I'm still missing 2, but if you go off to this side, this gives you a 30% chance for maps with bosses to also be corrupted when you enter the map. So it will just add corruption to it. So that means now everywhere that there's a boss, it's guaranteed to be radiated, and a 30% chance that it will also become corrupted. Both of those things raise, as I said previously, the level by 1. So that's going to really improve what it is that you can get out of the zone. So that's kind of all the different ways to pump up your rarity and kind of work on things for improving the way that you're going to get loot. Now, the problem that you're going to start seeing is with increased quantity from maps and things like that, and then also having a higher rarity, you're going to have a lot of loot dropping on the ground, and there's what's good, what's not, what are things that you want. So here are a couple of examples. I'll show you. I'm going to grab I'll grab a Chaos Orb to take, and we'll show a Greater here, and then I will grab a lower level map. So you can only drop items on the ground when you're inside of a map. If you're in your hideout, they'll just give you the option to keep it or destroy it. But if you go into a map, then you can actually drop things on the ground and see what they look like. So you can see here, like one of the things that I have turned on is anything with the superior prefix. So it doesn't matter what quality it is, you can pick these up and you can use them in the deconstruction bench, and superior armors will give you armor scraps, and then superior weapons or wands will give you the etched items for wands, or the blacksmith's whetstones for weapons. It's always nice to have some of these laying around. They're kind of expensive for what they are, considering the fact that they're laying around everywhere, but a lot of people disable these, which has caused the price to go up to where you get, I think 2 armor scraps cost 1 exalted right now. So, I mean, it's not a crap load of money, but or not a crap load of currency, but at the same time, it's like, this stuff just drops constantly. Just pick up a couple while you're going through a mission, and you will never have to buy any of them and waste exalteds on something like that. So this is the custom one that I have built to kind of show you the difference for when things drop. It's both sound based and visual based. So regal orbs, you heard the sound, you got the beam, the little white beam, and it's kind of a gold name here. Exalts, same sound, different color, so you can kind of see what they look like. Same with the Chaos Orbs, same sound, beam is a different color, and so is the box. Then you start getting into a few of the nicer things. Jeweler's Orbs. The greater Jeweler's Orbs make a different sound, much different colors, and a far more noticeable light beam coming off of them. And then you have maps. I'll throw the 13 down So the 13, it says the name on it because it's been identified at this point, which is it's been enchanted and identified, which is why it shows up as a weird name here instead of just Waystone tier 13. But these are white. They don't make really any sound when they hit the ground, and they have no beam. I primarily do this because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time picking up maps that are not tier 15 maps. But if I have random space and the map is right at my feet, I'll go ahead and grab it. But I don't know how many times you guys have been killing and you've got, you know, lightning bolts or whatever. I mean, like with this build, you got lightning going all over the place. It kills stuff off screen. I don't want to hear a map drop that is less than a 15 and feel like I have to run over there and find it. If it doesn't make sound, then I don't care that it drops, and that's kind of how I treat that, because the name of the game is getting through the maps pretty much as quickly as you can, killing as much stuff as you can, and then just moving on to the next map. So the tier 15 maps are a little different. Well, that one's not going to make a good... Oh, it's because it's corrupted, I think. I think all of these are corrupted now, so I don't have one. Unfortunately, I don't have one that's not corrupted, so it's not going to make a sound, and I don't have a custom filter set up for corrupted maps because you don't find them corrupted naturally. You have to corrupt them with vol orbs. But it will be a red, it's a white box with red writing in it, and it has a beam coming off of it and definitely makes a sound, so you know it drops. And then you can choose to have minor
I can feel
things like these guys. Like these show up for me. Once again, if I see them immediately around me, I'll grab them, but I don't run off and look for them. They make no sound when they drop. So, but that's kind of what the filter looks like currently. One other thing that I do want to say about maps when you're trying to create your maps is, as a rule, when you're going through and enchanting maps, you'll want to look for maps that have at least 3 prefixes. Prefixes are generally things that are going to improve the map, you know, as far as, oh, hey, this is, you know, better chance to get loot. That's where you're going to find your increased quantity of items. That's where you find increased rarity. Area contains additional packs. There's more magic chests. All of those kinds of things. Pack sizes are larger. Those are all prefixes, and as a rule, they do not apply any sort of negative that is going to make the map more difficult to complete. Your suffixes, on the other hand, is where all the nasty stuff comes in that you know, makes you enfeebled, or applies elemental weakness, or, you know, various things like that. These don't really do much for making better loot drop, but they definitely make the zone harder to clear. It makes the creatures more difficult to deal with. So the goal is to try to get as many prefixes as you can without getting more suffixes than you have to. Normally, I will go ahead and corrupt a gem, or sorry, a waystone, once it has 3 prefixes. Because getting more than 3 can get kind of dicey if you're trying to minimize the number of suffixes that you have. So that's a good rule of thumb. Go for 3 prefixes and then corrupt it. And when you corrupt it, it'll either go up to a tier 16 map like this one, or it will downgrade itself to a 14. Either way, 14s aren't bad. Normally when I'm going through the map, if I'm just trying to progress around in the map, I will use tier 14s for doing towers, and I use tier 14s for doing a node that doesn't have any level modifiers on it, like corruption or irradiated, or if it's you know, just completely blank in general. That's a good place to use a tier 14 because the loot's going to be slightly less, but then there's also not a lot of effects on that particular node. So hopefully that helps with how to build your how to actually create the maps themselves, how you want to be spending them, what's important on the map, and why. Just like I said, make sure you get out there and you know, do a Google search for breach bosses, or, you know, uniques that drop in breaches. Find things like that, so that if you have a targeted item that you're wanting to go farm, you know what type of event that it can drop in. And then, so from that point, we're going to go ahead and move over to how to create your own loot filter. So first things first, I'll show you where to put the loot filter. So if you hit escape and go to options, go to game, right here, item loot filter. You hit this folder button here, and it will open the folder. You literally just drag and drop your loot filter once you've got it into this folder. You can do it while the game is running. Obviously, you can't click on that specific shortcut if the game's not running, but so you can drop it in here while the game's running. If the game is up and running, all you got to do is hit this little refresh button here so that the game will query that folder again and then be able to see the new loot filter. Then you click the down arrow and choose the loot filter that you want to use. I've got a couple of custom ones here, primarily because I made a custom one and then I played with it for a little bit. Then I was like, oh, well, I don't really want to see these things, or I don't like the color of this item, or I don't like that this item makes a sound, but this other one doesn't. So then I would go back and alter it and then just upload it again as a different number. So you can do different iterations on them. You can also do them for different characters. So, you know, I mean, arguably, if you play multiple characters, then you know what the good loot is from all of those characters. So you could just have one item filter that shows all of that gear. But if you want to keep it more compartmentalized, I know some people are, you know, they get kind of weird about how they like their things organized. So you can have different loot filters for different types of characters if that's what you choose to do. But at the end of the day, that's how you get those up there. So now if you want to create one, you just go to a website. It's called filterblade.xyz. Once you type that in, it'll come up to this. Just make sure at the top here that it says PoE2 when it's highlighted. And then you can just, this option here is anytime you've come to this site, if you have an account, you can load the last filter that you were working on. So you don't have to keep a website open or do anything weird. If you create a filter and then you want to edit it later, you can just come back to this page and hit load, and it'll load the last one you were working on. But since you were creating a brand new filter, you just click create new filter. And this is going to show you a whole lot of stuff, and some of it will seem very overwhelming at the beginning. But these are just kind of showing you the different things that will drop and kind of like what they look like. But to just go ahead and get started and make this completely custom, you can do the various levels of strictness. The further along you are in the game, the more strict you want to be. So this is a good strictness for if you are playing through the campaign and you're very early mapping. By the time you're at somewhere between tier 5 and 10, you probably want to go to at least strict. And by the time you are regularly clearing tier 15 maps, you probably want to be at least very strict as your starting base. If you are in the campaign or early maps and you create the filter now, you can do this one. And then as you make customized edits later on, you can tailor the strictness inside of the customizer instead of having to come back out here and change this. So you only need to set this up for what you are based on when you create this map. This filter. Once you've chosen what level of strictness you want, come up here to the customize section. This can be a little overwhelming for some people, but when you really get into it, it's very simple. These are all different sections of different things. They tell exactly what they are. You can click on one of these and it will open up a section. Now, the concept for S tier, A tier, B tier, you don't really need to know that stuff. These are just names. Just essentially look at them as names for these individual sections. You could change this to whatever you wanted it, to be. My favorite, currency, whatever you want it to be called, that is irrelevant. But what this is it's just a container for the type of loot that will all react the same way. So if you click on this one, it opens up this section. It's going to show you what an example of what it looks like. This star that is in here means that when you look on your mini map, or if you open the transparent map while you're inside of a zone, this is what it will look like on the map. It'll be a little star. You probably noticed uniques look like that by default, but this allows you to change these to whatever you want them to be. So there's a star added on here because you need to know that this is an important item. And then when it's laying on the ground, it's got a red outline, red lettering, white background. All of that stuff is determined by right here. and you can just turn this off, and as you can see, the name went from red to gray. So it's still in there, but it's just a neutral color. So this is text color, border color, and background color. You can change these to whatever you want. They've got a couple of quick set ones here. You've got the entire color grade here, however you want to move these around, whatever you want to do with them. And then if you get a color that you want to reuse again, you can just come down here into this bottom section and highlight the whole thing and copy it. And then when you open up a different color, you just paste this hex code in here, and it will change the color of whatever box you're using to whatever the color of the box was that you copied it from. So for example, if I want to change this white to red, I could just go select the quick red because it's already there, but I can just highlight, Control C, come in here, copy over what's in here, Control V, and now the whole thing is red. As you can see, that's a little difficult to read because the border's red, the background red, and the lettering is red, so you're not going to really see anything, but that's just an example of how to do that. So the next thing to look at here is this particular sound setup. So when the item drops, right here is sounds. So you click this, and it just has sounds 1 through 9, and then the new ones are 10 through 16, and then they have the standard sounds that are default for what's in the game already. And then you can set up these sounds however you want to. This one uses 6, which sounds like, why is it not making the sound? Well, normally it makes the sound there. I don't know why it's being a pain right now, but normally it will. Maybe it's because I didn't change it. There it goes. Okay, so you can kind of hear the sound in the background. It's pretty light, but it sounds significantly louder in the game. This slider right here, of course, is for the volume. So if you want it to sound louder, turn it up. If you want it to sound quieter, turn it down. The icon that is being displayed here, which will display in this location for the item, and is also, like I said, what shows up on your map and your mini map, is selected here. You just select this, make sure it's active, and then you just pick a shape. You can pick your color, and then you can pick the size, small, medium, or large. And that will change the size of the star itself. And then here is the beam that comes up off the top of it when you go to when you're around it. You can see the beam shooting up into the air. Make sure it is active, and then pick the color that you want for it, and you're good to go there. This slider at the top up here will change the size of the box. So normally the really nice things, you want it to be really big. Smaller thing or less important things, you can make them smaller so they don't take up so much space on your screen, because a lot of times these boxes, if you have a ton of them on your screen, they start covering up NPCs and ground effects and will get you killed while you're trying to look and see what piece of loot dropped. So make the important things big. The other things, I generally will set them to about half so they just don't take up as much space. That way you're less likely to get a whole bunch of them piled up together and block a significant portion of your screen. But this is pretty much all that you need to know to be able to change the colors of the border, the text, the background. Make sure their check boxes are turned on if you want them to be active. You can set the drop sound. You can set the icon that it shows up on the map. You can set whether or not it has a beam and what that beam looks like. You can change the size of the box. Now for what this stuff actually does. Currently, this effect will look like this for the albino Roa feather, the divine orb, the mirror of Calandra, and a perfect jeweler's orb. So all of those things will look identical and they will sound identical, except the name will be changed when they drop. The way that you get that is you click right here, and here is basically all of the currencies in the game. If you want to add one to it, like you want Orb of Annulment to be annoying because they drop more frequently now, you just select that and then click add. And this one's asking, because I already have it in B tier, it's asking if I want to move it to this tier instead. I'm just going to say no, but But yeah, I don't know. Is there a sun artifact? That's probably somewhere else as well. Yeah. I'm figuring that probably all of them are somewhere in here, so it's not going to be something that I'll add to it. But you can also decide if you want it to be stack sizes, so you can determine a stack size. I do not suggest ever setting up stack sizes for some of these currencies, especially divine orbs. You're really never going to see more than one drop at a time. So if you set this to something like at least 2, then you will never see any single divine orbs that drop. They will be invisible. You won't see them. So don't change this one unless you know exactly what you're doing when you change it. Where spots where this is good, I have gold set up because gold can drop in really small piles. I have gold set up to where it only shows up if the stack of gold is 1,000 or more, because I don't want to be running off into a corner somewhere to grab 25 gold. It's irrelevant. So, and you can even cause things to be different colors based on, like, you could put gold in tier A and have it look like an orb of chance, and then put the stack size to 1,000. And then if you want a 5,000 stack to look more intriguing, then you could put that in S tier. And then when you go in here, say, you know, equal to, greater than or equal to at least 5,000. And then if less than 5,000 drops, it will look like a orb of chance. If 5,000 or more drops, it'll look like a divine orb. So you can do that kind of stuff. That can also be useful for some of the minor currencies, like the transmogrification, things along those lines, because those can drop in stacks of more than one. So going and picking up one may not be worth it, but if a stack of 3 drops, I mean, why not just grab it? You know, it's 3, and then you won't have to worry about running out later. So that's basically what you're dealing with when you're creating these here. This will allow you to set up your currencies and all that kind of stuff to have it set up however you want. These are all check boxes here. The baseline one here is supplies, scrolls. You can turn this on and this will show scrolls of wisdom. Most people keep them turned off because you just don't really need it with the, you know, having the guy that will identify once you get far enough into the story to have access to it. The magic shards, things along those lines. So you're basically your alchemy shards, artificer shards, orbs of augmentation, orb of transmutation, and regal shards. So the 2 minor orbs, and then the 3 shards for the kind of mid-tier orbs are all under this section. If you don't want to be bothered with picking these up, a lot of times these things are very inexpensive. So, you know, if you're getting a lot of div and a lot of exalted, you can just go buy a big stack of augmentation or transmogrification, or sorry, transmutation, and that way you don't have to waste time picking them up as you're running through a map, because the fastest way to get money and currency in the game, or even better items, is by just going through maps as quickly as possible, not wasting tons of time setting in a zone trying to pick through loot and decide, oh, do I need to get this? Should I pick this up? You just want to look for key things and key pieces of gear that are going to be high value. And yeah, I mean, you may pass up something that's worth 25 div, but it's probably a 1 in 2 million chance on a given character that you're playing that you're going to pass up an item of that kind of value, and you just won't know it because you've gotten it removed from your list here. So at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a lot more div by just streamlining how quickly you're moving through the maps. When you go down a little bit further, now you've got campaigns and exotic currencies. You're going to be looking for things like, sorry, that went down further than I expected. The catalysts will be in here, your omens, your essences, all of this stuff is kind of turned on by default, depending on which level of strictness you picked as your base strictness. Uniques in here, and then chancing. Chancing is a really important one. So I'm going to come in here. By default, it generally has heavy belts. But if you guys have seen things where people are offering to buy the white quality stellar amulets or white quality sapphire rings. The stellar amulets that go for as much as 150, even starting to push 200 exalted for one right now. It's just a common item. It is a white base level item that has no stats on it whatsoever, because you have to use that base level item when you use an Orb of Chance, and the Orb of Chance either turns it into a unique or it destroys it. But the uniques that you get from these base level items are worth 250 plus div. So it's a lot of currency value that they're worth, which is why people are willing to spend more for these lower end ones. So you can work on chancing these yourself, or you can pick them up and sell them to other people, and then once you've sold enough of them, you can just buy that item, however you want to do it. But the big base ones that you want to get are the heavy belt, the sapphire ring, and the stellar amulet. You can change the color to these. I make them a little more of a unique color. They have a kind of a dark green background with a green highlighted border, and they have different icons and stuff like that for their sounds. And you just pick these up whenever you find them. If I find heavy belts, not a lot of people are buying these because they're the most common of the low-end items. But I'll go ahead and chance these myself. You could get a belt of ingenuity out of this, which sells for, 60 to 100 div. You can get the sapphire rings. You can get the dream fragment ring, which is the one that I'm wearing currently. That one can sell for as much as 200 div. And then the stellar amulet, if you get the good one of that one, it can run you 300-400 div that you could get. So you can either try chancing all of these yourself, or you can just sell this white base level item for 200 exalted to someone in one of the channels, or put it in your box and just post it up for that much, and someone will message you and want to buy it. So always make sure you have these in here and pick them up. They're just free money. It's free currency. So, and I think most of the higher strictness values only have heavy belts listed for some reason. So make sure that you add sapphire rings and stellar amulets in here if they're not in here. And those are found under chancing. And then click chancing bases, and then just make sure these three are in this list. And then you can go through here and do other things. Here's the one with the gold. You can determine what the different sizes are for the gold stacks, whether they show up. If you don't care about small piles, you can just turn that off and be like, yeah, I don't want to see those. You can turn off medium piles. You can turn off the medium in-game piles. Just be like, look, if it's not 1,000 gold or more, I don't even care. If I accidentally step on it and pick it up, great. And if I don't, then I don't. This is another one where you can highlight specific bases. If you have, for example, I turned this on because I have been trying to roll a really nice wand for a while. So the wand of siphoning and the I forget the other one. The attuned wand. So the wand of siphoning and the attuned wand are apparently the only two wands that can roll a +5 to all lightning skills. So I looked for base versions of those, and I look for them for all rarities. So basically, if it is an attuned wand or if it is a siphoning wand, I want to know that that's dropping. Make sure that I see that, that it doesn't get hidden by the filter, and then that allows me to pick those up and then try to roll, really nice buffs and things like that, to get myself a really nice wand without having to spend a crap load on it. You can get further down here. You can go in and do things like map fragments and things along those lines. You can look for specific ones if you want to do these specifically, like if it's a bottom tier precursor that you just don't want to pick up just the junky tier stuff. They're there. You've got base precursors here. You can turn them off if you don't want to pick them up. I highly suggest that you do. They do give you the ability to do irradiated for zones, so that's +1 level. but you can change the colors on any of these. You can combine some of them. If you just want all precursors to be the same color, then you can just go in and move like this one that's S tier here, which is the high-end simulacrum. Like with basically the high-end means it's got it'll turn 10 nodes into these particular things. Or well, I'm sorry. These particular ones are for the simulacrum, the breachstone, and the audience with the king, which is the final version of them. You really just don't see these drop in the game, like not very frequently. So you could put them down in one of the other tiers and it would be fine. Audience with the king, a lot of times if you're going to see these, it's going to be in a ritual and you'll be able to buy it from the ritual. That's the only place that I've ever heard of anyone seeing them so far. And then the breachstones, you get those by combining 300 of the shards. You're not really going to see a whole breachstone drop, but on the off chance that you craft a breachstone and then drop it on the ground, might be a good idea to know that you just dropped it and probably should pick it back up. But you can combine these into just one rule if you want, so they are all the same color, and then just get used to, you know, when you see that color, hey, run over and pick it up. But yeah, that's pretty much all you got to do. You can get this really specific and play with these more and more. You can go down and do jewels. You can do specific types of jewels. These time lost jewels are very nice to get. They're pretty much best in slot for almost every class. It's just a question of whether or not you get one with the right rolls, because the everything that's on a time lost gem is completely rolled at random when you get the gem. So just because you see that they're time lost, even the unique ones will have varying abilities on them, and depending on which abilities they get determines whether or not it's worth anything. But it's a good idea that if one of these drops, to just make sure you see it. These come from the Trial of the Secamus. As far as I know, that is the only place you can get them, save maybe purchasing it from a ritual altar. But there's a few things that are, you know, unique to different parts of the game that you'll kind of want to pay attention to. I know the Mahu shield that a lot of people really want to get apparently comes from the Chaos Trials. Once you do the top end Chaos Trial, so basically level 79s and 80s, you'll want to make sure you hold on to those, and if you do Trials of Chaos, you can get the Mahu shield from there. If you get a good roll on that, it's a very high yield item for currencies as well. You can add in additional rules of things that you want to see, base types of armor or whatever, but essentially if it's not in this list, then you're just not going to see it when you get into the game. Once you are done and you're happy with how you have your system customized here, you just go over here to, well, you can go in here and do simulate, and then you can say just generate loot, and it's just gonna, you can just keep clicking it, and this is what your loot will look like when it's on the ground. It's just giving you examples. Generate valuable loot just means that you're more likely to see what high-end loot would look like. Something you can do if you want to, since you'll probably never see one in the game, is just keep hitting this until you finally see a Mirror of Calandra, because it's probably the only time you're ever going to see it. But yeah, this is what this stuff looks like. So, and then this kind of gives you an idea, so you can scroll through these. Like I said, when I did mine, I just made one, put it in the game, and just went and played. But I probably could have saved myself a lot of time if I would have just sat here and clicked through this a little bit and then go, oh, I don't really like the way that this chance shard looks, so I'm going to go back and change that real quick before I export this. And then the style section is basically where you can come in and do styling for your entire setup. So this is essentially all of your frequently used colors and stuff, and you can just go in here and say, okay, I just want to set all of this particular one, or everything in this section, I'm just going to set them all to one color or something along those lines. I personally prefer going in and doing things individually and not doing blanket changes, but that's up to you. You can kind of mess around with this, but this is blanket changes for text colors, for borders, for backgrounds. You can change the sounds and things along those lines. Advanced, honestly, I haven't messed around with this section personally. So you can probably do some pretty powerful things in here, but just like this says, only use these tools if you know what you're doing. I haven't gone through and messed with them yet, so I don't want to tell people anything about them and mess up your item filter that you've been working on, but these are always some things that you can come in and start reading about and kind of learning how to toy with, and kind of what am I trying to say? Yeah, kind of streamline your item filter more and more by using these features. Once you feel like you've gotten everything good to go, you can come over here to export to Path of Exile. You can set these to public if you want. That allows other people to just see what they are. You can give it a description if you like. The auto load, all this kind of stuff, I don't really mess with. I just go in and put in a name. Make sure it's set to PC if you're playing on PC. If you do the auto upload section, I don't know if the Xbox and the PlayStation ones work for Path of Exile 2 yet, but they did have filters on Path of Exile 1 for consoles, so you may be able to do this for consoles as well. But definitely if you're playing on PC, make sure you have PC selected, and then if you hit sync or download, no, type in some kind of a name, hit sync or download, you can do save and sync, and this will try to upload it directly to your system based on your account names that you have set up in here and all of that kind of stuff. It will try to find your account, whether it's on PC or on console, and load this directly to it. Me personally, playing on PC, I just hit save and download. It will download this to wherever your downloads go traditionally. For the average person, it probably goes into the download folder. And then when you click that, it'll download and put the little arrow up here. You can click on that and tell it to open that folder. And then once you're back in the game, you just take that file that it generated and you come back here to options, to game. You click this folder here and you copy it right inside of here. Once it's copied in, hit your refresh. It may take it a half a second or so to actually show up in here, and then select it, and you are instantaneously using that item filter. And let me see if this will actually work for you. So this is something that might be important, just if you want to see how much it's saving you, the stuff you're not seeing. I don't know how much stuff dropped in here, because this was just a hideout map, so it was super tiny, so I don't know how much loot's actually in here. But yeah, there's not much here. Normally if you hit Z, that turns off the stuff being on all the time, and if you hit Z again, it will turn it back on. Oh wait, there we go. So you can turn it off and back on, and then if you hold Alt, it will show you all of the things that your item filter is hiding. So here's an ultimate flask here. At this point in the game, you shouldn't be needing flasks anymore. There's not a lot of upgrading or chancing you can do with them, so you should already have all your flasks. This advanced barrier quarterstaff, irrelevant. I don't need to see that. Here's a blue advanced quarterstaff. It's not particularly a good quarterstaff to begin with. Not the one that people want for buying and selling with. So very good that stuff is not showing up. But you can just see here where when I'm holding down Alt, it will show you all of the different things that your filter is hiding. So you can quickly check and just be like, I'm just curious. I just want to see what's laying on the ground. Like here's Vision Runes, Scroll of Wisdoms, all the stuff that I have filtered out. So little piles of gold. And with the gold, if you just walk over them, you'll still pick them up. Now they're gone because I picked them up. All of this stuff is still laying here. It just doesn't cover your screen with the boxes and stuff anymore, which makes the clutter a lot less. It just looks a lot nicer. And then, like I said, just hold left alt. This is specifically left alt, right alt works as well, and you can see whatever's laying on the ground that you had hidden. I suggest just making sure your filter is good and trust the filter and just go, because all the time you spend running around looking at all this stuff, you probably could just run a whole other map and have a much better chance of getting a div or something worthwhile to drop. That's really all I've got as far as making your filters go. One other thing that I will show is I can't show you you guys the icon for it, but the name of it is called Exiled Exchange 2. You can do a Google search for it for download. You're going to want to download it from GitHub, from the people that are actually working on the project. It's been around for a long time. It was here for a huge portion of Path of Exile 1. They've improved it so that it also works with Path of Exile 2. And this is the way that you're really going to maximize on getting the most money that you can in the smallest amount of time. So basically what this does is, let me go back to the base here. So what this program does, it's a program that you run in the background. It's a third-party program. Like I said, it's been around for a long time. Make sure you download it from GitHub. Don't download it from any shady websites that you don't know what they are. The GitHub one is straight from the developers that make that program, and they've been doing this for a long time. It's open source as far as I know, but yeah, so fairly trusted piece of third-party software. Don't install it if you don't feel comfortable, but I've been using it for years, never had any kind of problems. When you are looking at any item, I can do it with this item, but it's kind of pointless. So let's go in here and just look at some random item like this Widowhail bow. You hit the hotkey and it brings up this menu. This menu is doing a search on the website that is provided by Grinding Gears Game for essentially an auction house system. What this does is it just does a quick search to tell you what they are currently selling for. This is how long ago this one was posted up. This is how much they're asking for it. And then the question mark means that they will negotiate, they're willing to negotiate price. So if you want to buy that for a little cheaper, they're willing to come down on that a little bit. Like maybe this guy would sell it for 1 exalt instead of 2, or maybe his negotiation is, I don't necessarily need exalts, so I'll take a big pile of regals that are worth the same as 2 exalted. You know, that could be the negotiation tactic for them as well. It may not necessarily always be a smaller amount, it could just be a changed amount. But you choose that stuff when you set up the things in here. When you say negotiable price, that's what's giving you that question mark. And then let's see, let me see something with so this one's got a bunch of extra stats on it. So when you do this one here, this one's selling for 1 aug, which is not much. Now you get some transmutes here and then multi-augs down here. This isn't necessarily a great item, but the other thing to take into consideration as well is it's doing this search based on these 2 check boxes. So it's only looking at the total armor and the total energy shield. And basically what this is saying is it's saying, show me every single Jingling Crest shield that has at least 57 armor and at least 22 energy shield. So it won't show you something that is lower end than your item. But this will show, it's not specifically looking for ones that have fire resist, it's showing you everything as long as it has at least 22 energy shield and at least 57 armor. If you want this to be more specific to your item, you want to check more of these boxes and then hit the search again. Now, so someone is, instead of being worth an aug, this one is worth 2 exalted. That's actually mine. I'm selling mine for 2 exalted. I put it up 12 days ago. This is also a good way to check and see. It's like, well, how long have I had this item in here? It hasn't been selling, so maybe I should mark the price down. So you can just come in and hit the hotkey to do this, and then it will show you. It's like, well, I know this one's mine. It's the eye level is 29. It's 2 exalted. It's the only one up for 2 exalted with all of these parameters. Mine's selling for 2 exalted. That one's mine. Now, if you have a bunch of people selling them at the same price, it might be a little harder to track it down specifically. But I know this one's mine, and I know it's been up there for 12 days. So I probably need to go ahead and just drop this price, leave it up there for a couple of more days. If it doesn't sell, then I'll just destroy it and get the regal shard out of it. And that's a good way to keep track of how long your stuff has been up there at a specific price. Because when you change the price, it should change the listed days. But to be sure, whenever I change prices of items, I generally will pull them out of the chest, put them in my inventory, and then put them back, because that forces you to reprice them and definitely triggers a relist. So there are versions of this shield that sell for a lot. If you want to know what is going on here, like why is this one worth 2 exalted, but then there's a different one that's worth 3 divine. If you hit this trade right here, it will actually open up the trade site for you. It takes it a second to load, but it will show you exactly those shields. So here's the 5 shields, and yeah, this one is in fact mine. It was the first one on the list. Was posted up, now it's 13 days ago. So I've been talking in this video so long, we've gone up a whole day. But yeah, so now you can come down here and go, well, why is this one so much more expensive? What has it got that mine doesn't have? Most likely, it's going to be all of the resistances. You've got 16 to all elemental resist. You've got 34 to fire, 37 to lightning. It's got a really high mana roll on it, and then a really good increased chance to block, all things that are really good for a shield. And mine has lower block chance, only resist to all resist. It's a small amount. There's no mana on here and no single resist with high numbers. So that's why this one's cheaper. Mine is a lot more similar to this one, but this one does at least have 24 int and a much higher block chance. So this shield is probably not even worth the 2 exalted. It's probably not even worth 1. If this guy's selling this one for 3, this is probably just not worth it at all. I just need to destroy that. But that's how you use that program. When you download the program, there will be a couple of things that might get annoying with you. Control D is you just mouse over any item and do Control D. It brings up this window. When you want the window to go away, you just click somewhere not on that strip and the window goes away. The thing that I have a problem with is normally the main menu for that program is hold shift and press space, and the problem that I have with that is sometimes I'm typing fast, and when I do single letters, like if I'm typing I, the letter I, and I capitalize it, normally you're hitting a space right after that, and my pinky won't come off of shift before I hit the space, and then it opens up this window, which gets on my nerves, because when you're trying to type and then this window pops up, it stops you from typing to people anymore. So what you can do here is hold shift, press space, brings up this window, click here on this gear, and this will allow you to change all of the keybinds for this program. So I changed mine from shift space to control shift space. The other thing to note is there is an auto hide mode and an open without auto hide. I personally suggest changing this to open without auto hide and making that the Control D, and then you can do the auto hide one by doing Control Alt and D. The reason that I say that is, let me see if I can show you an example. So if I Control Alt D on this, nope. Why did that not want to work? Or wait. There we go. Sorry, it's not Control Alt Delete D, it's just Alt D. The reason that I have a problem with that is if you do the Alt D and bring this window up, once you move on to it, you can see the screen kind of goes white. But if you move off of it for any reason, it just instantly goes away. I don't personally like that. The one reason is if you've got a whole lot of stuff in here and you just Control D something, I like having it to where I can move this off, because this little white circle right here is showing you the item that you did the Control D on. So when I do that and then I'm like, oh, this thing isn't worth anything, I can just come over here and grab it real quick and pull it out, and I know exactly where it's at. You know, so I don't have to worry about that. The other problem that you have as well is when you have an item like this one where it's got multiple things and you're wanting to try to click them. If you try to click here and something bumps your mouse, well, now it's closed it, and then you have to go back in and reopen it. So those are just minor little tips for it. It's totally up to you how you want to set them up, but like I said, you just click that right up there. You can change the hotkeys to however you want them. These will check various other things. I don't personally use any of these. I just haven't found a need for it. But if you want to enable them and set up you basically just have to set a hotkey for them and it'll work. And some of this stuff may not be fully implemented yet as well. Keep that in mind. So like things like Delve is a Path of Exile 1 thing, so that's not going to do anything here. but they're doing this off of the backbone of the one that was made for Path of Exile 1. So some of this stuff may not work. Some of it is potentially still in development as well. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. Hopefully you found this stuff helpful. Hopefully this helps you, you know, really improve the amount of loot that you're getting, and it being actually beneficial loot, and gets you, you know, to start collecting those divs so you can buy the items you really want and really start pushing what your class can do, and, you know, doing those crazy pinnacle bosses and being able to kill them in just a couple of seconds. In order to be able to do that kind of stuff, you need the top-end gear in the game, and you're not going to get the top-end gear in the game by just schlepping along and, you know, being super slow in maps and, you know, not focusing on the things that actually have value. So, like I said, hopefully this video was educational for you, helped you out with some stuff. I would really appreciate it if you give me a like and subscribe, and come back and see me when I'm live. I usually play 4 nights a week live. Most of the time I'm playing Path of Exile, but a lot of times I am playing other stuff. So just come back and see me, and comment down below if you got something to add, or if you know, some ways that I could improve this. However, save making the video shorter, because that's just clearly something I can't do. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.